Most products don't fail because they lack features. They fail because people can't figure out how to use them. How do you add more features without damaging usability? And how many support tickets, workarounds, or tutorials are really just symptoms of bad UX? And how do you make UX-led decisions when your product is already complex and widely used? Let's find out.
This is WP Product Talk, a place where every week we bring you insights in product marketing, business management and growth, customer experience, product development, and more. It's your go-to podcast for WordPress product owners by WordPress product owners. And now, enjoy the show.
Hi, I'm Katie Keith, founder and CEO at Barn2.
Yeah, and I'm Ian Misner. I'm general manager and co-founder at Kestrels.
Now, before we get started, we're on a road to hit 10,000 YouTube subscribers, although actually we have just hit that target. So that is amazing since we wrote the show notes. So thank you, everybody who has already subscribed to us. If you haven't yet, then please go onto YouTube and subscribe now. Or if you prefer to use a different podcast tool such as Apple or Spotify, then you can subscribe there. It only takes a second and it makes such a difference.
Yeah, and a huge thanks to Freemius for being our exclusive growth partner. Freemius helps software makers grow, monetize, and succeed. It's a merchant of record platform handling everything around selling software. So check out payment, subscriptions, licensing, updates, and apparently even tax compliance. So they got the whole pile here. It helps you focus on what you do best, building your product.
Yeah, and so now let us get into UX and product development. For this, we have invited Devin Walker to the show. Welcome, Devin.
Hey, how are y'all doing? Nice to be here.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here. I know you've been a guest on the show before, and we're delighted to have you back, especially since you have a new role, which is very relevant to the topic we're discussing today. So could you tell everyone a bit about your new role and what you're doing these days?
Yeah, sure. So I've been at, what is it? I think it's my fifth month now at Automattic, leading Jetpack. My official title is Artistic Director, although I've heard Product Maison also, but I prefer to just call it Product Owner, General Manager, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, that's my role now, and it's been good. I feel like I've gone through the onboarding phase. I'm still learning a lot every day, but I wake up and I think about how we can improve the UI UX of Jetpack, of which there is much to do.
Yeah, because that's such a well-known product and such a complex product that people have been talking about for years. So I think people were really pleased to see you join Jetpack and see that it's got a new direction and all of that kind of thing. So yeah, excited to learn more about that. So with that in mind, let's jump straight into the show and tell part of the show, where we each talk about our work specifically relating to the topic UX in product development. Could you start off by sharing what you're doing with Jetpack and what sorts of UX improvements maybe have already been made or that you've identified that are needed and what a difference that would make?
Absolutely. Yeah. If you want to share my monitor here, one thing I can showcase are a few UIs that I think are pretty good in Jetpack, and then where we want to improve. So if you're looking at my screen now, you can see stats. And stats are one of the more visual and upfront features of Jetpack, and one of the ones people really enjoy the most. So obviously you can see here, we're using these Jetpack green colors. We have this main view at the top, which shows you your most relevant stats, most viewed pages, very digestible dashboard here. One thing that I will be changing in the near future is making everything in Jetpack feel more like WordPress. And for a lot of the stats views, It does feel like WordPress, but I'd say the green color is probably going to change to what you've set with your WP admin blue. So we're going to, still have a little bit of flavor of Jetpack branding, but it's going to be more using WordPress components and primitives. So the stats you can see are quite nice, and you can go through, view your 2025 and review, which is quite nice. Now, this is my personal site. I don't get a whole lot of traffic on it, but and then it also integrates with the newsletter feature here, which I just started using as well. Another plugin that I run side by side is Independent Analytics. Have you guys heard of that one at all?
No.
It's quite nice, and I really like the dashboard that they have here. There's a lot more thrown at you as far as like what you can do. You see this left-hand side navigation, and some could argue when stacked next to the WP admin here, it can be a little bit overwhelming. But for somebody like me who spent the last 15 years in WP admin, I can it's not a problem for me, but I could see somebody being relatively new to WordPress being a bit overwhelmed by this sidebar choices. But as far as what they actually show you and give you functionality for, it's really amazing. And this is where I see us wanting to take stats a bit more in the future, where you can see your user journeys. You actually have a real-time view who's coming on your site, where, oh boy, there's somebody from Canada. That's great. They actually want to visit my site. But that dashboard's really nice. You can see form submissions. I don't have these hooked up right now, it looks like, but all these different options that are a lot more digestible than if you were to use Google Analytics or something like that. So this, you can see they also add their purple primary color here, which I don't know. I don't mind it so much. I think the issue with WordPress compared to other closed source SaaS platforms are you do get kind of a grab bag of UI UX, right? Depending on where you're at and what product or plugin you're interacting with. And, I'm a bit split on that, because if you ever, I think, Katie, you've developed for Shopify, right?
Yeah.
And when you develop for Shopify, they really enforce some of their standards on you, don't they?
Yeah, if you want to get the built for Shopify badge, it has to match exactly, which I really like, because that's what we have always done in WordPress. We've always analyzed what WordPress and WooCommerce do visually and copied wherever we can, rather than invent our own thing. So, for example, if it was a Barn 2 plugin, you wouldn't be seeing purple here. It would look, and the whole background colors and everything, it would look more native. But a lot of plugins do like to put their own mark on.
That's a great point. And exactly. And some of my products, like WP Rollback, for instance, we use WordPress components. We don't, I don't really put too much outside of the native WordPress experience, like you're saying. But WordPress, in its open source nature, they don't enforce any of those strict standards. There's no badge you have to get like Shopify, which the end result is, you jump between some of these different options here. Like if I go to Cadence, obviously it's going to look completely different than this, right? Or if I go to the dashboard, it's going to, the dashboard can potentially be a mishmash of all of them, right? We have the analytics widget here. We have a Fluent SMTP adding something else here. The host includes Object Cache Pro. That they arguably keep the WordPress standard here, but I don't know why I don't have oh, this is a different site, but the Jetpack Stats has their own dashboard widget as well, which then you can see here. So you got a mix of the two. I mean, I've gotten past the point where it's annoyed me. I mean, I've been in WordPress too much, and there's no chance that we can cram everybody into that box. But the component libraries are out there. The UI standards, I wouldn't call them standards, but guidance is there as well if you want to go down that road. But yeah, overall, the Jetpack Stats, that's a good example of where I think Jetpack does a good job of it. Another area where we're using a lot of WordPress components and primitives is the forms. Jetpack Forms has gotten a significant upgrade recently. And you can see when you go and view your contacts, you have like an inbox type of look here that then you can see the different messages. You can mark them as spam. All this is utilizing, obviously, the WordPress core experience. And what we're doing in the future is standardizing a lot of this. So when you switch between these different screens from Boost, social, to we're bringing these offsite links as well. That's a bad experience when you get kicked to another site to manage stuff on your site. We're going to bring these as first party pages within Jetpack. But across the different pages, when you go through them, you see all sorts of different visuals, different layouts for the header here. You keep the WordPress footer in place. I'm not sure why, but it's going away. And it's a lot less visual. You see how many toggles there are? Jetpack is toggle crazy. Like you can enable and disable so many different things, and you're like, well, what did that do? There's multiple ways to get to different modules. There's just a lot going on with Jetpack, and it's kind of messy.
I want to jump into like the whole point you said about using the like core WordPress components as much as possible. I would definitely say that that's it's a win-win for users and for us as product makers, right? Where, you know, often what's already out there is already mostly done, if not done enough that you should use it. For users, though, it's familiar, it's comfortable, and whatever. And I see you're sort of highlighting in a lot of places Jetpack doesn't always do that today, and it's good to hear you're leaning in that direction. I have a question. I want to just throw in one more thing addressing some of the stuff you were dropping there, though. Specifically, I have a lot of WordPress.com accounts because of the various properties and like, you know, WooCommerce admin and all that. I would never, when I get kicked off of a site to go log in via WordPress.com, I never know which, like, it's not even helping me which account it should be, you know? So it's I give up and I move on. The question though, is a little bit separate and maybe too much, but in research for chatting with you today, I was digging through sort of like some of the recent reviews for Jetpack, and there is this trend that is, you know, separate from all the meminess around, you know, it's the big thing that does all the stuff, but it's the confusion around like, what is Jetpack, literally? And I know that question's a little broad and a little much, but do you have like an angle or a take or like a solution to the problem of that question surfacing, you know, and say the .org reviews and that sort of thing?
Yeah, I mean, so we want to be able to answer that question in as few sentences as possible, right? It's security, it's performance, it's growth tools. Like those three buckets cover a lot, though, right? And what goes into those three buckets? What tools, growth tools? Well, newsletter, video press, social posting and sharing, all sorts of different blocks that you can customize and visualize your content better. Performance, we have, you know, Elasticsearch. There's again, all that needs to be explained better, and that's one of the core efforts of this roadmap this year. Is I'm calling it the Jetpack Experience Unification Initiative. That's a little bit of a mouthful, but let's just say it's bringing cohesion to what Jetpack is, the story behind it. And if you don't need everything, that's fine. If you just want to use Protect or social, we have this happened before I came. We have individual plugins for those features. And when you install some of those separate plugins, we're going to be taking a hard look at the experience there and how we can bring that, leverage that as like a taste of what Jetpack can bring, give you an idea of what the whole suite of products are. And so hopefully if you enjoy using that one single plugin, then there will be a nice clear pathway to install the main plugin. And then we're going to simplify pricing and plans substantially as well. I envision there's the single plugins, the main free core of Jetpack, which you can do arguably a whole lot. One of my biggest issues or things that I'm trying to figure out is how to provide that upsell, because the free plugin does do so much. Like the pro version has a lot of great services that you can leverage, but when you go to the website jetpack.com/pricing, you're kind of bombarded with a lot of different options. So what if there was only Jetpack like Premium or Pro, and that's it? And like we can backload if you want to buy a pro version of a social or an individual one. Sure, you can do that, but we'll kind of backload that and price it in a way where if you want it, you can do it. It saves you some money, but still, we're really wanting you to experience the whole suite. And we've done this with Give WP, right? Before, when we first launched in 2015, we were just selling add-ons, extensions, whatever you want to call them. We called them add-ons. And that was good for a year or two. We're like, most people, they need recurring donations. A lot of them, they need PDF receipts and some of these must-have add-ons. Well, why don't we have a couple plans that we can offer, right? We'll do like I forget exactly what the way we called them. I think it was like Basic, Plus, and Pro. Pro, you're basically getting everything. Basic, you don't get recurring donations, and you don't get a few of these like critical. And then the sweet spot was that Plus plan, which 80% of buyers chose because it included that the recurring donations, like the must-have add-ons, essentially. And man, that did so good for our sales, and it made the buying journey so much simpler. And there were still questions about which plan to choose, but it wasn't like, oh, I need these add-ons and I'm like shopping and I'm figuring out which items I want to pull from the shelf, and oh, I left the store and now I'm missing a critical ingredient. Now I need to go back. And so I envision that working well for Jetpack as well.
Yeah, I think those are really important points, because UX is used to refer to the interface of software. Actually, it means user experience, doesn't it? The user experience is everything. It is what your product is. Jetpack does have that challenge, of course, because it's so many things. I love the way you said, we want to describe it in as few sentences as possible. Most products aim for one sentence. So even the goal shows the complexity of that challenge for you. Then you've got the pricing. All of that actually is user experience, even if we don't call it UX in software.
Absolutely. The whole experience is not just the software itself, it's the discovery process, the first interaction with the brand, the first time you visit the website or see it listed on the plugin repo. Those first impressions mean a lot to most users. I'm a big believer that first impressions leave a lasting mark. And when you go to, like, I think I like the store analogy, right? Like when you go, Jetpack has like a pretty nice fancy front of the store, but then when you get in, like there's a lot of great product and features, but the store is a little bit all over the place. You're not sure where you're going, like where's the checkout, how can I leverage some of these, what's free, what's not. And so that's what we really want to get more in order, and also do quite a bit of work on the website. Not a lot of people know one of the best UI UXs of Jetpack is the mobile app. If you guys haven't tried the mobile app, I highly suggest it, because it's quite amazing. And as well, Jetpack Reader, which is available on .com. We're going to bring it back for .org users as well. It's quite a great experience to consume other WordPress websites, news, and non-WordPress. Any RSS feed really can feed into it. And so not a lot of people know about that and the exposure it can give. And that's also one of our emphasis more towards the later part of this year, is like, how can we get more folks using Reader? It's not just exclusively Jetpack or WordPress.com, and most people don't know that.
Yeah, I actually, there's a thing you sort of said in one of the last couple of answers. It's like, it's more of a suite of products in a lot of ways. And that is, I think, where a lot of this confusion may come from. And then as far as what you were saying, Katie, on like UX versus UI, right? Like we have the opportunity to set the expectation before we deliver on it. And I think Jetpack is one of those products that if you actually do dig into all the pieces, it's doing amazing things, but people don't know. It's the expectation setting up front that is sort of the bigger struggle, I guess, right?
Yeah, and we should talk about what happens if you get it wrong, or not get it wrong, but don't do it well. And there's feature growth without UX consideration over many years, and that leads to misperceptions or some valid perceptions, of which Jetpack has many. Oh, it's bloatware, it slows down my site, Automattic steals my data. I can guarantee we don't steal the data, and we don't sell it. Whether it slows down your site or not, there's some truth behind that. I mean, if you enable every module under the sun in Jetpack, inevitably it will add some scripts on there. How can we make that more transparent, what it's doing? Well, I thought about that. Like maybe there's some sort of like system health dashboard or Jetpack status page where you can see what kind of scripts are being enabled, what the weight of them is, like where it's coming from. So you kind of know what's going on there. And then how Boost, which is the performance caching layer, actually used to be WP Super Cache back in the day. Now it's Jetpack Boost. What that's doing to prevent like some of that speed slowdown or some of those scripts placed on your site. And I've sort of lost my track there, but I'm going.
No, I think that's super helpful, and I definitely would like to zero in on some of the more like the actual UI stuff as well. But the specific thing that I'm kind of hearing from you is interesting to me, because I think I'll turn this into a question. Because Jetpack is an Automattic product, I think you sometimes get sort of the weight of the default problem, right? So again, I'll use a Shopify comparison really quick. So Shopify has a subscriptions app, right? It's the default. It works fine, does most of what people need. But because it comes from Shopify, everyone doesn't like that it doesn't do exactly their specific thing. And then because of Jetpack and where you guys are positioned as an Automattic product, I think you might be sort of experiencing that same, the expectation is it's exactly what I need because it's from the WordPress people. Is that something that you've sort of been confronted with at all in moving from Give to Jetpack?
Somewhat. I need to talk to our users more. That I'm kind of in the weeds now, and do more feedback. That's something I'm making an effort to. I think they're, I'm kind of wary of it, but we want to. One of my ideas is start a Facebook group, a Jetpack Facebook group, and see what comes out of that. And obviously the reviews are telling, some positive, lots of medium ones. But yeah, listening to our users, understanding what their wants and needs are. We're sponsoring WordCamp Asia, so going over there, actually getting face-to-face with many of them. So yeah, I think that's really important.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. I mean, I guess I could share a little bit of sort of an experience I've had as far as digging deeper into UX and all that. As I'm sure a lot of folks watching this may know, we have a product at Kestrels, Checkout WC. It's a WooCommerce checkout replacing the default Woo checkout with a React-based blah blah blah, all the pitch, whatever. The main thing though is like the product has all these features and all these wonderful things that people are looking for, and that's how they find it. We got like order bumps and all that. But ultimately, the feature is actually the UX improvements for their customers. It's the inherent trust behind the scenes, all the little, spacing, rounded edges, all the things that just make it feel high quality and very high end. And something that I've actually really discovered delving into this product in particular, though, is that a lot of the times, all these big ideas, all the fancy features, all the things that people get excited about aren't actually what they want at all. It's sort of the spoonful of sugar, to make the actual real improvements go down. And so I just want to tie that to something real quick, is that we made significant improvements to our free plugin a few months ago to include sort of the base, all those various UX improvements, so that core value could just be made available to more people more easily. And it hasn't impacted negatively any of sort of the sales data or anything, but at the same time, it's made it so that sort of that significant, the minor things that people aren't seeking out are available to them directly, right? And and it was just a bit of a sharing of the little changes that the UX improvements can make, right?
Yeah,
Katie, do
and
you have an example?
it's easy to not prioritize those because I was discussing this with one of my developers yesterday, actually. You focus on feature requests, don't you? X number of customers are asking for this feature, and then you make a business decision on which ones to add. Customers don't typically request UX improvements, but they have just as big an impact. So you need to think a little bit more creatively and get feedback in different ways. Use your own common sense in your product, because customers probably aren't going to tell you, other than by voting with their feet through a refund or a review saying it was difficult to use. It's up to you to figure out what that means. In what way is it difficult to use, and is that their experience or a problem in your product, which isn't straightforward.
Yeah, and I do want to just tie that quickly to something you said early on, Devin, about your title. It's the Artistic Director versus all the big fancy corporate sounding titles. I honestly, as much as the data is amazing and all the fancy big features and all that's the exciting thing, that's what people are going to ask you for, and they're going to look for in Google and all that. It is those little touches, though, that somebody who like just genuinely cares about the problem is going to really spend, stay up a little too late, digging in a little too deep into something that half the people on your team don't even know if it matters, but it's just like, you can tell that it matters. You care enough to do it. Those are the things that I get most excited about with these sorts of things, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, I think with Jetpack specifically, there's a lot going on. Like, you need to connect your site to our servers so we can run a lot of these services, offload a lot of that. And when there's something wrong with that connection, when something goes, you install a security plugin, it's blocking around, like that's when the experience of Jetpack gets really not good, right? Things don't work and you don't know why they don't work. And that's something behind the scenes that we're trying to harden and figure out better. It's really difficult. I mean, you guys work with WooCommerce, self-hosted WordPress sites. They need to communicate with Stripe or whatever payment gateway on all sorts of different hosts, and getting that like connection layer right is something that's really difficult across all my experiences with Give, now with Jetpack, with other locations in the past. But nothing ruins a UX like a hidden problem is my main point. And with WordPress, there can be some of those hidden problems.
Yeah, one of the things we've really dug into to try to surface exactly those sorts of things, like a connection issue that you may not even hear about it because they're just mad and they move on or whatever. But we actually, in our support queue, we have 100% of our support team logs the job to be done for every support request that comes in, but with a specific framing of this is the thing that they were doing at the time they decided they needed our help. So that, identifying, I'm sure I think I've seen a podcast or something where you've talked about the job to be done framework actually, right? But sort of like by doing that, you have this sort of like steady stream of like these, like, instead of the problem the user tells you, it's sort of the symptom. You treat what they tell you as the symptom. You really dig deeper into the event, the failures moment, I guess, right? Yeah. I know I've sort of veered into more of the experience side, though, and I think we have a little bit more on the UI specifically that we might want to dig into as well, right? And I did want to ask really quick one more thing on you were sharing some of the stuff on analytics, Devin, and a lot of the implementations that are within WordPress, they're very basic, and I'd say Jetpack's even part of that list, right? It's one of those things where you get a very high level. This does the thing of telling me if number go up or not, but it's not really super actionable, right? And what you were sharing is sort of that example. The ability to reduce the complexity that you're going to get from going to something like Google Analytics, but really digging much deeper. Do you have a way that you sort of gauge how far down that path a product like Jetpack would or should go?
I think listening to the users and understanding UX as like sort of like a telemetry of what your support tickets are saying. When questions come in like, can I do this, or will this be coming, is sort of like a vote for a feature, in my opinion. And when people are asking multiple times for a feature within stats or analytics, for example, then that's when it'll get more attention on our roadmap. And that's how we've treated it in the past. And then it's worked pretty well. And then some items we think of internally as well, right? For instance, with stats right now, if you run an advertising campaign through Blaze, which is Automattic's ad network, which runs through Tumblr and other things like that, you don't actually get to see like how that's performing within your stats dashboard. No, because there's a separate stats dashboard for just the paid ads. I'm like, why is that the case? And then for Akismet spam protection, guess what, you have a third dashboard to go check that out as well. So we really need to unify some of these analytics. And that last example wasn't really brought to us by customers or users. It's just something we see as a quality of life issue within experiencing Jetpack or .com that we're going after. And so it's a balance between what internally we feel UI UX is best versus what our customers. And a lot of times, if you leverage too much what you do internally and you think you have a great idea and you push it out, it's a big update, sometimes that can fall really, really flat on its face and your users are like scratching their head. What, you just went back a step in the product. This happens many times. I mean, lots of examples I can think of.
Yeah, actually, I do have one follow-up question on that. Does that specifically, I think I saw, actually it's tied to what you said about Give. There was this, you shared at some point that the real big growth moment for Give was when you really decided to simplify and pare that down in a lot of ways, right? Like really provide a more cohesive offering. Has there ever been a time where you've like, to improve the user experience, you've had to like drop a feature, you've had to get rid of something entirely? Is that something you've had experience with?
Yeah, well, we had like, we called them V2 forms, like the forms we launched with, right? Were put like a normal donation form on your site. So your theme could control a lot of the styling, the functionality of some of it in certain regards. If JavaScript depends on the theme, sometimes the donation form would look great. Sometimes it wouldn't look so good. So in Give version 3, we came out with a new, for lack of a better word, like an iframe version of the form. And the styling was is still to this day very opinionated. The form looks great, but depending if you're using like a dark mode site, it might not look as good. And so we thought it was a big leap forward. I still think it is a big leap forward, and it's progressed so much since that first launch. But a lot of our users did not want to come along and upgrade their forms. They were just still really tied to the old one and how you could easily customize it. The developers were also a bit confused on how they could reach into the shadow DOM and start modifying, and that requires its own little CSS trick there. And so that's a good example I can think of.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. And Katie, I think jump in. Do you have an example of the UI, the show and tell? Do you have something on your end? Yeah.
For my show and tell, I have two examples. So that's two different plugins that we have. One of which is where I thought there was an UI issue that maybe there wasn't, and one where a UI issue did slip into the plugin. I will share my screen. So this is our Document Library Pro plugin demo. I discovered a few weeks ago that 15% of the real customers that are using the plugin are adding instructions above the document library to tell their users how to use the document library. And that was really surprising to me. So here you can see we've got a table of documents, we've got some filter drop downs, we've got a search box, we've got download buttons, previews, and so on. To me, that's really obvious. And yet people are writing to filter the document library, select items from the drop downs, or type in the search box and things like that. It's got a few different layouts. It's got folder views where you can, like, a bit like Windows Explorer or something. And again, people are writing above the document library to find documents in a particular category. Click on the folders until you find the document you want. And I was like, why? What's wrong with our plugin? And I spent a while thinking about it and consulting with people. And I've decided that it's not necessarily a problem with the plugin in this case, although normally I would view the fact that 15% of people are writing instructions as evidence of a UX problem in the front end of the plugin. In this case, the plugin attracts mostly large organizations, governments, education, nonprofit, that kind of thing, where the users visiting their websites might typically be less computer literate than, say, our WooCommerce customers. And as a result, I decided that while I don't necessarily agree they should be providing instructions, it doesn't mean we need to go back to the drawing board. So that was kind of reassuring. I might be wrong about that, but I think it's pretty intuitive already, certainly in the front end. And next, I'm going to get to the example of where we've got it wrong. This is the UX for our WooCommerce product options plugin, which lets you add various types of options to your products, such as here we've got pizza toppings, which would add checkboxes for extra cheese and pepperoni and that kind of thing. And when we added a new feature recently, we basically overlooked a consequence that we should have thought about. Before we did the new feature, basically it didn't have this display a quantity picker alongside each choice checkbox. So if you added checkboxes for your pizza toppings, the customer couldn't choose how many portions of extra cheese they wanted. They could just tick extra cheese or not. There was no quantity field. And that was fine, but some people wanted a quantity field. And where we got wrong was somewhere in the advanced settings. Here we have a choice restrictions option, which has a tooltip, helpfully explains what it does, which I think is really important in WordPress plugins if it's not that obvious. And it says the minimum and the maximum number of checkboxes which the user can select. Fine, I think that's clear enough. You go to the advanced settings if you want to say you can only order 2 extra toppings. But then we added this quantity picker option, which allows people to select a quantity for each checkbox, like 2 portions of extra cheese. And this is where we got it wrong, because it adds all these extra options to the advanced settings, including individual choice quantity limits. So like, how many extra cheeses can they add? They can't add 10 extra cheese. That would be weird. And the total quantity limits, which is the quantity spread across all the options checkboxes, like maybe they can only add 5 of any extra topping in total. Fine. But then how does it fit with choice restrictions? That's where we got it wrong, because now it's not clear, is it? You've got how many checkboxes in total versus how many of each, and they're in separate sections of this table, and we just didn't think about how the two would interact. And I only picked up on it after the release when I was setting it up on our demo site, and I got confused myself. And I think that just shows how subtle UX changes can be. When you're adding complexity, these things happen. And even though that went through design, it went through QA, the developer built it, I've signed it off as well, none of us noticed until I tried to set it up on a real website. This makes no sense. So that's a very detailed, but I think it illustrates how much we need to think about UX in everything we do.
Absolutely. Yeah. You can't just give everybody all the cheese and pepperonis. You know, they need to have choices on it.
It sounds like a good pizza, though.
It does sound like a great. I'm hungry now for some reason.
I will say we actually released the rental products bundles feature not too long ago, where we made a very similar mistake, actually, Katie. So at least it's not just you. It was basically, yeah, we lot of complex pricing calculation options. We didn't account for all of them. It's all fixed now, but yeah, it definitely waited until it went through. You know, we do testing, we do all the things, but you know, when you get it in front of a couple thousand people, it's going to be, they're going to find things that you maybe didn't think about, right?
Yeah, Ian, for your products, like the UI UX is the whole selling point, especially with checkout, right? Like that needs to convert better than existing WooCommerce, right? The whole selling point, right?
Yeah, and one of the hardest things for us is there is a lot of other, you know, checkout plugins out in the market, right? And when it comes down to it, the ones that we compete most directly against are actually the ones that do the most things, right? So, you know, they have like 50, 100 features on their pricing page. And ultimately, we're zeroing in on UX being the thing instead. You know, you want to go build a 17-step checkout with, you know, like tripwires and, you know, down sells and all that stuff. There are better products for that. If you're running an e-commerce store and you just want your customers to feel really great when they're checking out, we're going to do that instead. And a lot of the times it just means that the fixes are a lot more subtle, I guess. But yeah, it definitely, it comes through in the data, and that actually is maybe, actually I'll lean into, as far as advice is concerned, as far as, you know, we always wrap these things up with, you know, what the best advice we have for people building their own products. I think that the number one thing for a product like Checkout WC, and probably applies to most products, we set sort of our core, you know, measures of what, you know, what are we delivering exactly what the product is for. We have very simple measures for each one of our products. Checkout, for example, is, do we actually just drive additional revenue for all people 90 days post install? And, you know, what level of impact can we have? We run all of the changes we're potentially going to make to the product, what new features, new UX improvements, through validation of, you know, when we roll it out, did it actually meet this sort of like North Star metric or whatever term you want around it? And I think ultimately, if you can't name very bluntly what the product really does in a way that can be quantified, you should probably, you know, take a step back and consider that, so that you can decide confidently what those improvements are going to be. Right. Devin, do you have, you know, best advice?
I thought that was really great. I would say, you know, UX is it's more of a multiplier than a layer when building products. Like if you just don't add UX at the end of the build process. It's baked into everything that you do, and how the user chooses features, what kind of smart defaults are in place, how they flow through the product. The end result is you'll have a reduced amount of support tickets. Your customers will be happy. They don't need to think as much. Like the number of decisions that the user has to make should be as minimal as possible. And then if yes, like maybe you don't ship features if you don't have a good idea of how that fits in your product, where the decision tree lies with the user. And so that's what I would say is it's a multiplier, not a layer within the product development lifecycle.
Yeah, my best advice is to really think about how to make it so that people can use ideally every feature of your product without needing to read the documentation. They should be able to go straight onto the page and know what to do intuitively, because it's similar to other products, intuitively just because it's obvious. Use things like tooltips and so on to really make it clear what each section of the admin is doing. And yeah, you need documentation and some people want it, but your goal should be to allow people to find success with that product without reading anything around the topic.
Yeah, and that ties really well to what Devin said at the beginning. If you use the WordPress design pieces, you know, you can make things very intuitive, very, very easily for the users in front of us, right? Awesome.
Yeah, good point. We are building for a platform, so we can use that to our advantage. We shouldn't be reinventing the wheel, as that does have a detrimental impact.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's a wrap. Thank you so much, Devin, for joining us. Where can people find you online?
Oh, yeah, thanks for having me. You can check out my website, devin.org, or on X at interwebs is my handle on there.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks again for joining us. And if you're enjoying these shows you're watching now, do us a favor, hit the subscribe button. I think Katie did say we're at 10,000 now. That's not enough though. And it's the best way you can support the work. So, please do, if you're watching somewhere else, go to YouTube, subscribe anyways.
Yeah, and next week, Ben Meredith from Give will be joining us to talk about using AI to 4x your support team. So join us then a week from now. And thanks everyone for watching. Bye.